I was halfway through slicing the roast when she said it. No warning, no apology, no awkward preamble. Just a clang of silverware and that sugary, cloying tone she adopts when she wants to gut someone politely. Mom, don't come to Lucy's baptism. We're keeping it just family. Just family. It took a moment for it to settle. There was a breath, then the world slowed. The sound of forks and knives clinking on china drowned out by the throb behind my eyes. I looked up at her across the table. My daughter. Megan. She wasn't looking at me. Not really. She stared at her wine glass like it held more truth than her own mother. The corners of her mouth curled up in that careful, curated smile, the one she uses when she's about to be cruel with a pastel filter. Travis didn't even flinch. My son-in-law just kept chewing as if nothing had been said. Head down, hands folded near his napkin like a child in a courtroom. I swallowed the slice of meat I'd just tasted, though it felt like glass on my tongue. I thought it was next weekend. Megan laughed lightly, lifting her glass like she was proposing a toast. We moved it up. It felt more, and asterisk made this way. You know, less chaos. We just want it small. Small. But I counted 12 people at that table, not including the kids. Travis's boss, a man who'd once called me Linda, was there. His neighbors from across the street, people Megan had known for 2 years at most. And someone from her Pilates class. Her mom tribe, as she calls them. Not small. Just redefined. A new family. One that didn't include me. I blinked. Breathed through my nose. Set the carving knife down gently on the edge of the serving tray. The silver glinted under the soft chandelier glow, casting light on the glossy slices of roast I'd made from scratch. My signature. The one dish Lucy always said smelled like Grandma's hugs. But Grandma wasn't invited. I see, I said. That was all. Megan's fingers were wrapped delicately around her stemmed glass, nails perfect and shell pink. It's nothing personal. We just want to avoid unnecessary stress, you know? For Lucy. For Lucy, I repeated. Someone coughed down the table. One of the Westwood neighbors was awkwardly checking his phone. The children were restless, pushing peas around on their plates. Megan went on, chirping like a hostess. We'll live stream it though, so you can still be part of it. A live stream. I felt my throat close up and I smiled. I actually smiled. That automatic, reflexive, Midwestern smile. The one that says, it's fine, even when you're bleeding inside. Of course, I said. That makes sense. She nodded brightly, her eyes shining. Thank you for understanding. Understanding? Within the hour, my phone buzzed. A notification from the local mom group chat. Megan had posted a new message. She'd pinned it. A pastel pink graphic with a cursive overlay. Boundaries aren't rejection. They're protection. And then, beneath it, her caption, reminder to new moms, it's okay to exclude toxic relatives from sacred moments. If someone makes the day about themselves instead of the child, keep this circle safe. You're not wrong to choose peace. Hashtag momtruths, hashtag boundaries, hashtag protect that child. Pinned. For all to see. I stared at the screen as my thumb hovered over the app. Megan had added a heart emoji and tagged 3 women from the table. Toxic. She didn't name me. She didn't have to. Travis's boss lifted his glass to Megan, murmured something, and they laughed. I caught the edge of a whisper. It's hard, but worth it. She nodded like a soldier who'd made a hard call. At that moment, I knew. This wasn't forgetfulness. This wasn't miscommunication. This was an erasure. At the parish hall, they'd already reassigned my seat to the far edge. I knew that because the florist had called me confused, asking why my name had been crossed out on the card arrangement, replaced by Bethany H. The florist thought I'd canceled. I hadn't. And as I walked through the hallway toward the guest bathroom, I overheard one of the Pilates friends whisper, maybe Ellen should just skip it. Megan's been so anxious lately. Anxious. The words slid around my skull like oil. As if my presence was a toxin. As if my love for my granddaughter, my years of sacrifice, my entire identity, had somehow curdled into something dangerous. Travis saw me by the co-track as I was leaving. He didn't stop me. Just smiled tightly and said, we'll send you the photos. Photos of Lucy in her christening gown. The one I'd stitched by hand last fall. The one Megan had said she might not use because white is so cliché. Now, it was perfect. And I was uninvited. I drove home without music. Just the sound of my own breath and the faint buzz of notifications on my phone, friends reacting to Megan's post with hearts and affirmations. So proud of you for standing up for what's right. Family is what you choose. You're so strong. I opened my laptop the moment I got home. The kitchen lights were still warm, and the leftover roast sat on the stove untouched. My reflection flickered in the screen, gray hair, tired eyes, the face of a woman who'd just been rewritten out of her own story. I didn't cry. Not then. I didn't rage or scream. I went into my documents folder, pulled up the spreadsheet where I keep my finances, and began making a list. Dates. Amounts. Gifts. Travis's business loan. Megan's daycare expenses. The emergency money for their down payment. The stroller. The crib. The designer diaper bag she claimed she couldn't live without. Lucy's birth photography session. All of it. I scrolled back through the years. 34 years teaching 6th grade. 7 years of part-time tutoring after retirement. Every check I wrote to help them. Every time I said, don't worry about it, while moving money from my savings into theirs. And now? Now I was being called toxic because I existed too loudly in their lives. But I wasn't angry. I was curious. Because in business, and life has taught me that family is business, whether we admit it or not, when people push you out, it's not personal. It's strategic. You move inconvenient pieces off the board when you're about to play a dangerous game. And if they didn't want me at the baptism, if they had the gall to pin a post about toxic relatives before I even left the driveway, then someone somewhere was hiding something. And I was going to find out exactly what. The next morning, just after 9 a.m., the landline rang. Not my cell. Not a text or email. The landline. The one that only people over 60 still use. I picked up expecting a robocall about car insurance. Mrs. Ellen Parker? Yes. This is Father Daniel Carter. I'm the parish pastor over at St. Jude's. I stood completely still. The room went silent. I wanted to call you personally, he continued. His voice was warm, low, uncertain. I received your donation this morning. For the roof repairs and the new Sunday school classroom. I just wanted to thank you. I hope I'm not calling too early. I moved to sit down, slowly, placing the cordless phone on speaker. Not too early, Father. Just unexpected. He chuckled nervously. We've had some generous donors in the past, but this was different. I received word that your foundation made a donation last night, anonymously, $150,000. I wanted to verify. And to say thank you. I leaned back into the kitchen chair, my hand cupping my coffee mug. Yes, I said, that was me. Through the L&M, Parker Foundation. It's something I started 2 years ago. I remember your name from school board meetings years ago, he said. You always stayed behind to help clean up. We had a lovely Christmas drive because of you 1 year. Then you know I care about children. He grew quiet. I could hear him inhale. There's something else, he said. And I only say it because I feel it's my responsibility as both a pastor and someone who tries to protect the peace of these moments. I waited. There were rumors. About you. Rumors. I've heard things since yesterday evening. One parent called me late, nearly midnight, worried that there might be an incident at the baptism. That you might show up uninvited. That perhaps you were struggling. Mentally. That there was some history. I said nothing. Let it hang in the air. He rushed to explain, his voice quick. I didn't believe it. It's just that Megan spoke to the office earlier this week, requesting changes. I was told she wanted your seat moved, just in case. Closer to the exit, I finished for him. I know. I'm very sorry. I took a slow sip of coffee. Let me ask you something, Father. You've spoken to me for 5 minutes. What's your impression now? There was a pause. Then a sigh. You sound calmer than half the parish board. I smiled faintly. Not out of joy, but recognition. Calm is power when people expect you to unravel. I understand if you don't want to attend now, he continued. but I wondered if you'd be willing to come by next week. After Massachusetts. Perhaps we could talk in person. I'd like that. We set a time. I took down the church office address, though I already knew it. It was the place where Megan had been baptized in 1990, where I'd taught vacation Bible school for 7 summers, where I had stitched together a dozen angel costumes with my own hands when the Christmas pageant budget ran out. Now they called me unstable. Now I was a liability. I ended the call, stood in the kitchen for a long moment, and stared out the window. Snow had begun to fall lightly, dusting the garden that had once held Lucy's birthday balloons. They were hiding something, and I was done giving the benefit of the doubt. I went upstairs and opened the closet in my study. Pulled out a folder labeled Estate, Legal. Inside were documents, power of attorney forms no one had signed. My will, last updated 4 years ago. Statements from the family trust. At the back was a typed draft of something Travis had given me last spring, a proposed financial management agreement. It gave them temporary custodial access to my accounts. I had never signed it. I remembered the way he'd asked over dinner, Megan quiet, nodding like it was no big deal. We just want to be prepared. You're getting older. It's good to have things centralized. He said that while using the custom wine glasses I'd bought them for their engagement. Centralized. Another word for controlled. I pulled out my phone and called Carla Mays. She picked up on the 3rd ring. Ellen Parker. That name still makes my spine straighten. I smiled. Carla and I had worked together at the district office for a decade. She was fierce, brilliant, and now a licensed private investigator. I need a favor, I said. Tell me it's not about cheating husbands. I'm tired of lipstick on collars. No. Something quieter. Family. I need you to check some public records. Mortgages. Liens. Loans. Insurance. Anything tied to Megan or Travis Reed. I'll pay your rate. But keep it discreet. There was a pause. Ellen. Are you sure? I looked down at the church bulletin Megan had left on my kitchen counter. The one with Lucy's name printed beneath upcoming baptisms. There was no mention of me. I'm sure. Okay, she said. Give me 48 hours. After I hung up, I took out a notebook and started writing. Not feelings, facts. Every gift. Every check. Every ATM withdrawal they made on my behalf. Every little moment I'd brushed aside. February 2021. Daycare fees. $3,200. March 2022. Emergency loan for car repair. $5,000. June 2023. First-time buyer help. $12,000. October 2023. Megan mentions should consider assisted living soon. When people lie, they often leave receipts. Not always paper, but patterns. The story they were building, the one where I was senile, difficult, intrusive, wasn't random. It was architecture. They were laying bricks. And what they didn't know was that I had started building too. I called my lawyer next. Asked to schedule a meeting about updating my medical directives and preparing a new will. One with sharp teeth. He agreed to meet that week. Before bed, I sat in the living room, turned off the lights, and lit a single candle. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Years ago, Megan used to come through that door with Lucy bundled in pink blankets. She would ask me to hold her while she got a moment. I would rock her granddaughter to sleep while my daughter scrolled Instagram in peace. Now, I was an inconvenience. A problem. A thing to be managed. But they'd forgotten something. Before I was a mother, I was a strategist. Before I was a grandmother, I was a builder. And when someone starts quietly cutting you out, it's usually because they're afraid of what you'll uncover if you stay too close. And I intended to stay close enough to see everything. 2 days later, Carla called. She didn't text or email, she called. Which told me everything before she even spoke. I sent the files to your personal email, she said. Password protected. Use the code you gave me. Carla. What did you find? She paused. I could hear papers shifting in the background. Ellen, are you sitting down? I'm braced. They're drowning. And they've made you the lifeboat. I opened the email. The file was titled, Read, Financials, High Priority. I clicked. Page 1, Remortgaged Property, 215 Westwood Drive. signed September 17th. They'd pulled $180,000 in equity out of their home. And less than a month later, Meghan was suddenly talking about downsizing stress and finding simplicity in less. Page 2, credit debt, $43,087. 93, spread across 6 cards. All maxed out, including a store card I'd co-signed for Meghan back when she was in grad school. I hadn't thought about it in years. Page 3 made my stomach lurch. Carla, I said quietly. Is this real? It's real. A life insurance policy. Issued February 11th of last year. Payout, $250,000. Policyholder, Ellen Parker. Beneficiary, Megan Reed, listed as caregiver. I felt the blood drain from my face. Caregiver? I don't need a caregiver. I know, Carla said gently. But if someone files the right forms, it's not hard to convince an insurer otherwise. Especially if there's no legal opposition. There were notes Carla had attached *TS from the community nanny parent group, where Meghan was active. One in particular made my heart seize. From user ReadMama34. If Emile acts out at the baptism, we'll have to document it. Maybe time to discuss her medical capacity with the church. Would be easier to take guardianship if we frame it as protecting her. Protecting me. Like a stray dog or a bag of broken glass. Another comment beneath it. Exactly. They always seem normal until the incident. Document everything. I stared at those words for a long time. Document everything. I stood from my chair, walked to the hallway closet, and pulled out the small black camera box I'd bought last Christmas as a gift for safety. Never opened it. That night, I did. Installed one camera in the living room, one near the entry, one watching the back patio. I updated all my passwords. Bought a second phone under a new account. I labeled it simply, Backline. They wanted documentation? So would I. The next day, I called my physician. Scheduled a full cognitive evaluation through a geriatric neuropsychiatrist. When I arrived, I told the nurse up front, this is not for my peace of mind. This is for legal protection. She didn't blink. You'd be surprised how many mothers say the same. The evaluation took over an hour, memory recall, orientation, problem solving. I passed everything. The doctor, a sharp woman named Dr. Keene, looked at me afterward and said, "You're sharper than most 50-year-olds. What's going on?" My daughter thinks I'm worth more confused than present. She nodded. I'll write the report. You'll have it in 3 days. If they try to declare you incompetent, send them to me. When I got home, Meghan had left a message on my answering machine. Her voice bright, falsely breezy. Hi, Mom. Just checking in. Haven't heard from you. Wondering if we can stop by this weekend to chat. Lucy misses you. She hadn't called in 6 days. Not since the dinner. Now she was Mother of the Year. I didn't call back. That weekend, I made copies of my evaluation paperwork and placed one in the safe, one in a bank lockbox, and one with my attorney. By Sunday evening, my hands were shaking, but not from fear. From focus. Meghan and Travis didn't want me at Lucy's baptism because I was unpredictable. Not emotionally. Legally. They had tried to make me look unstable because a senile grandmother doesn't ask questions. A senile grandmother signs papers. Hands over control. Becomes a name in an obituary with a large payout at the end. I thought of the baptism gown again, the one I had sewn, then handed off to Meghan like a gift, never realizing it would be used in a ceremony I was being erased from. My phone buzzed. A text from Travis. Hey, Ellen. Any chance we could talk? Just for a sec, Meghan's feeling stressed and wanted to clear the air. Maybe lunch this week. They always circle back when they feel the shift. Like animals sensing the scent of fire. I texted back. Sure. Wednesday at 1. My place. I'll make tea. Then I called Carla again. Do you know anyone who can verify identity at short notice? For what? I want to set up a trust. One that activates automatically if anyone questions my mental capacity again. Carla whistled. You're playing chess. I'm playing defense. We met at the attorney's office 2 days later. He listened as I laid it all out, the loan gifts, the false instability campaign, the insurance policy. The comment about guardianship. He didn't blink. We can do an irrevocable trust. Put your primary assets in there. Set a clause. If your mental state is ever challenged and no judge finds cause, the entire estate is frozen and diverted to the church scholarship fund. Perfect. Medical directives? Updated. No one but Dr. Keene can sign off. And power of attorney? Vacant. Permanently. He leaned back. They're going to panic. I'm counting on it. When I left the office, I felt, not good, but anchored. Sometimes love doesn't mean giving more. Sometimes love means drawing the line before they do it for you. I arrived at St. Jude's on a Wednesday afternoon. Snow clung to the edges of the walkways like silent witnesses, and the stained glass windows glowed dully under the overcast sky. The church was empty except for the faint scent of candle wax and old wood, a smell that used to make me feel safe. Reverent. Now it felt like a trap someone else was setting in my name. Father Daniel met me at the side door, offering a smile that was both warm and wary. His office was small and book-lined, with a wooden crucifix above the window and a chipped mug that read, "Clergy in Progress." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "I appreciate you coming, Mrs. Parker. You can call me Ellen." "Ellen, then." We sat. For a moment, the room was quiet but not uncomfortable. Just the pause before a storm. He folded his hands over a manila folder on the desk. "I reviewed your donation paperwork. Everything is in order. Very generous." "I don't do it for praise," I said. "It's for the children." He nodded. "And the Sunday school renovations are now fully funded. Megan will be thrilled." I smiled without warmth. "Will she?" His expression didn't change, but something in his posture tightened. "Look, I want to be honest with you. I'm in a difficult position. Megan has been vocal. She's approached the church board twice this month." "What did she say?" "That you've been forgetful. That you've accused her of theft. That you might be showing signs of mental decline." "And what did the board say?" He hesitated. "They deferred to me. And I told them the truth. I've spoken to you. You're coherent, calm, direct. If anything, you're more composed than the people accusing you. Would you like to see the paperwork from my evaluation?" His eyes widened slightly. "You have one." I handed it over. Dr. Keene's letterhead. My scores. Every page notarized. He read quickly, flipping through the results, then closed the folder and placed it gently on his desk like it was radioactive. "Well then," he said quietly. "That changes things." "No," I said. "That confirms things." I reached into my purse and pulled out a sealed envelope. Inside, a statement from my foundation, breaking down the terms of the donation. "I'd like the church to accept this money under one condition," I said. "Complete financial transparency. Public records of where every dollar goes. Monthly updates on the children's library, the Sunday school renovation, and the scholarship fund." He nodded slowly. "That's reasonable. And wise. And if anyone, including Megan, suggests again that I'm mentally unfit, you'll receive a cease and desist from my attorney. You're a church, not a courtroom." He leaned back, exhaling. "You're not what I expected." No one ever thinks the grandmother is paying attention until she stops smiling. We sat in silence for a moment. Then I added, "I want something else. Not public. Just quiet. Yes, a private blessing for Lucy. With her godparents. No live stream. No photos. Just peace." He studied me. "Megan might not like that." "I'm not asking her." He didn't argue. Just nodded. "I can arrange that." "And father?" "Yes. Talk to her. Not as her pastor. As a man who's seen enough family lies to recognize a performance when it's playing out in slow motion." He gave me a long, searching look. "You're building something, aren't you?" I didn't answer. But he saw it anyway. I stood to leave. He walked me out personally. As I passed the vestibule, I saw the baptism schedule printed on the bulletin board. Lucy's name was still there. And next to it, written in tight script, "Reserved seating, family only." I took out a pen from my purse. Drew a neat line through it. Walked out into the snow. That night, I prepared for war. Not with P***NS. With records. I pulled out every file I had. Wills. Titles. The trust documentation. my medical directive, my foundation's charter. I scanned everything, made copies, labeled every flash drive. One went into the safe, one to my lawyer, one to Carla. Then I drafted a list. Things they've said. She's been forgetting things lately. We should talk to someone about guardianship. It's safer for Lucy if Mom isn't there. She's getting unpredictable. Things they've done. Tried to move me into a senior community with a $280,000 buy-in. Asked for access to my accounts, just in case. Opened a life insurance policy with Megan as caregiver. Lied about the baptism date and excluded me. Posted online about toxic family stealing attention. Removed my name from church seating. Planted rumors in the parish about instability. What they want. Control. Money. Silence. What I want. Protection. Clarity. Documentation. To stay in the picture long enough to expose why they tried to erase me. When I finished writing, I poured a glass of wine. Not for comfort, ceremony. There's a moment in betrayal where the shock wears off. And what remains is steel. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't even angry. I was ready. The day I decided to convert every feeling into a fact, I woke before dawn. My hands ached the way they used to during report card season, an old ache from decades of paperwork and holding too much together at once. But this ache was useful. It reminded me I was still very much alive. Still dangerous. Still sharp. I sat at the dining table with my coffee and opened a new ledger. Not a metaphorical one. A literal ledger. I labeled it, Truth. Page 1 was titled, Things I Have Given Them. It took 5 pages to list it all. April 2018, $7,500, Megan's startup launch. Never repaid. June 2019, $12,000, Travis's bridge loan while he switched jobs. March 2020, $6,800, IVF expenses when they wanted a second child. December 2020, $3,400, surprise Christmas gift to help them get back on track. May 2021, $10,000, early inheritance for their home office remodel. August 2022, $1,300, Travis's dental emergency. Total so far, $40,000. Not including birthdays, holidays, childcare, contributions, car repairs, groceries delivered weekly because Lucy likes grandma's choices better. I paused, took a sip, flipped the page. Page 2, Evidence of Exclusion. Removed from baptism guest list. Just family announcement made publicly. Online post insinuating I'm toxic. My seat reassigned at the church. Church board contacted behind my back. My presence described as disruptive. The facts were louder than my memory. So I started recording everything. The next time Travis called, I turned on the voice memo app before picking up. Hi, Ellen. Just wondering if you could do us a small favor. Lucy's tuition went up. We're covering most of it, of course, but if you could spot us $2,000 just for a few months. Travis, I said, do you remember the money from last spring? For the car. Of course. That was a lifesaver. You never paid it back. There was a pause. Well, we figured that was a gift, right? No, I said, calm. It was never marked as a gift. I just never invoiced you. Oh, he said. Megan said you didn't mind. I do now. Click. I saved the recording. Transcribed it. Then I called my bank. Every shared access point. Every co-signed account. Every authorized user setting. Gone. Erased. I changed institutions entirely and moved the bulk of my savings into a new trust. When I walked into the bank, the manager greeted me like an old friend. Mrs. Parker. Always a pleasure. What brings you in today? War, I said. He blinked. Against kindness taken for weakness. He nodded slowly. Then let's arm you properly. That evening, I reviewed Carla's latest notes. They had applied for a second line of credit, using the remortgaged home as collateral. And a week later, Megan made another post in the mom group. It's okay to distance from family who sabotage your peace. Even if they gave you life, they don't get to ruin it. Protect your child. Protect your energy. The comments were a bloodbath of emojis and affirmations. I didn't reply. I just printed it. Added it to my growing binder. Labeled, pretext. She wanted applause for exile. She could have it. Because applause is loud. But court records are louder. The next morning, I scheduled lunch. Invited them over. Played the game. Travis arrived with his usual false charm. Megan wore beige cashmere and her frazzled but composed expression. "Mom," she said, "thank you for having us. We just want to clear the air." "Of course," I said, pouring tea. "Let's talk like adults." Lucy played in the living room while we Saturday. I began, about starting a college fund for Lucy. Something real. Structured. $50,000 to begin. Megan blinked. Travis's eyes lit up. "That's incredibly generous," he said. "But it has to be official," I continued. "Direct account. No cash. No intermediaries. And no one else gets access. Ever." Megan's smile faltered. "Why all the rigidity?" "Because I believe in boundaries," I said. "Like you." Travis tried to pivot. "You know, we've always said family should help each other." I slid across the table a folder labeled legal structures. Inside, a copy of my new trust. "If anyone attempts to claim I'm mentally unfit," I said, "this money, all of it, will be rerouted to the church. Automatically. Irrevocably. That includes Lucy's college fund, my savings, and any inheritance. The system is locked." They stared. Megan's mouth opened. Then shut. "And here," I added, sliding over a second document, "is my cognitive evaluation. Signed and sealed. I've also filed it with the parish." Megan's voice turned sharp. "You went behind our backs." "No. You went ahead of mine." Travis looked down, then up. "Mom, why don't you trust us?" I looked at them both. The perfect portrait of offended offspring. "Because trust is earned," I said, "and lately, you've spent it like credit." Megan's hands clenched the napkin. "You're treating us like strangers." "No," I said. "I'm treating you like adults." I stood, walked to the living room, picked up Lucy and held her tight. She giggled, resting her head on my shoulder. This child, I thought, is the only real part of them. When I turned back, Megan was blinking fast. Angry or hurt, I couldn't tell. "We should go," she said tightly. "Thank you for lunch." Travis stood. "Mom, I hope one day you'll see we're not the enemy." I smiled. "That depends which side you think you're on." They left without hugging me. Lucy waved from the car window. Innocent. Oblivious. I stood at the door and whispered, "I'm doing this for you." That night, I made 3 copies of every document signed that day. One for the safe. One for the lawyer. One mailed anonymously to Father Daniel, sealed with a note. "Should they escalate, you'll know where I stand." Because families like Megan and Travis count on one thing. That you'll break before they're exposed. But I wasn't breaking. I was documenting. And when they came for me next, and I knew they would, it wouldn't be feelings they met. It would be facts. The following Thursday, Megan texted again. Just a single line, polished to seem casual. "Can we talk? Not about money. About family." I didn't respond. 2 hours later, Travis sent an email instead, subject line, clarity. "Hey Ellen, just wanted to reach out about future expectations. Megan's been upset lately, and we think it might help if we could all sit down again. There's some concern about Lucy asking where you've gone. We think it's confusing for her." I read that line twice. "Where you've gone." As though I were the one who left. As though they hadn't banned me from her baptism, scrubbed me from the seating chart, and fed lies to the church that I was mentally unstable. But I didn't delete the email. I printed it. Highlighted the phrase, future expectations. Filed it under, language of inheritance. 2 days later, I received a formal letter. Not handwritten. Not emailed. A typed, sealed letter on recycled stock paper. It was from their lawyer. The same one Travis had mentioned offhandedly once, just someone who helps with our estate planning. The letter was cloaked in concern, but the language was surgical. "Given recent questions surrounding your estate and potential incapacity concerns, we request a conversation about long-term financial guardianship, as permitted by Ohio Code." They were going to try it. They were laying the groundwork for legal control. I poured tea. Read it again. Called Carla. Send everything, I told her. Every email. Every screech asterisk T. Every time they've used the word guardian, power of attorney, or mental clarity. I want it organized, dated, and categorized. I already did, she said. It's in the Dropbox. Labeled contingency A. I opened the folder. There it was. Every digital footprint they'd left behind. Every whisper that was supposed to sound like concern but reeked of greed. That same evening, I got another text from Megan. Mom, we're not trying to control you. We just want what's fair. Fair. A word used by people who've never been told no. I drafted my reply. We can meet. 1 hour. My attorney will be present. All discussions recorded. And if the words guardianship or incapacity are spoken, the meeting ends. She didn't reply. But they showed up on Sunday. They came without Lucy. No stroller, no diaper bag. Just Megan's neat trench coat and Travis's rehearsed smile. I met them on the porch. Let them inside. The camera above the door blinked red once. In the living room, my attorney sat quietly with a folder on his lap. He was soft-spoken and deadly. Perfect. Megan opened her notebook like she was leading a board meeting. We're concerned, she began, about how sudden things have become. Sudden? I asked. The new accounts. The legal walls. The trust. I nodded. So we're talking about money then? Megan flushed. We're talking about safety. Travis jumped in. We just think it's smarter to combine things. One power of attorney. Centralized communication. I laughed. You want me to sign over decision-making to the people who tried to erase me from my granddaughter's baptism? No one erased you, Megan said quickly. You made that decision yourself. I have the email, Megan. Her face froze. I reached beside me. Pulled out the binder labeled receipts. Page 1. Her text about keeping it just family. Page 2. Her church request to move my seat near the exit. Page 3. The pinned mom group post about toxic relatives. I've documented everything, I said. And now it's structured. The trust is sealed. The medical directive is bulletproof. The college fund for Lucy is untouched, but entirely out of your reach. They looked at each other. That flicker of panic they couldn't quite hide. Travis cleared his throat. So you're just going to cut us off? I'm not cutting you off, I said. I'm cutting the strings you thought you could pull forever. Megan stared at the fireplace. Said nothing. I slid another document forward. This is a family boundary agreement. Calls only for emergencies. No financial requests. No public discussion of my mental state. And full acknowledgement, signed and notarized, that I am of sound mind and acting freely. You want us to sign this? Travis asked. No, I said. I want you to understand that without this, I'm a ghost. No calls. No visits. No trust. No inheritance. Nothing. Megan stood. I can't believe you're doing this to your own daughter. I stood too. I can't believe my daughter thinks love means access. She turned to go. Her voice cracked. What do you expect us to do now? Live within your means, I said. Like the rest of us. They left without shaking hands. The next morning, I took a walk around the block. Snow had hardened into ice on the sidewalk. Everything looked still. But underneath the crust, the soil waited for thaw. Just like me. When I got back, there was a letter from the church. Father Daniel had submitted my donation to the finance committee. The transparency policy I requested? Unanimously approved. Receipts would be posted quarterly. The Sunday school expansion would be renamed the St. Lucy Children's Library. I sat down at the kitchen table and cried, not because I was sad, but because I had built something they couldn't take away. For the first time in months, my phone was quiet. No demands. No poison disguised as concern. Just peace. That night, I put Lucy's private blessing photo into a new frame. It was just her godparents, Father Daniel, and me. No hashtags. No filters. Just light through a stained glass window and a single moment of honest joy. I whispered to the photo, I'm still here. Because sometimes the strongest revenge is simply refusing to vanish. And sometimes, the only way to protect love is to set a boundary so clear, no one dares cross it. The morning of Lucy's baptism, I didn't leave the house. I didn't dress. I didn't put on my pearls or the soft cream sweater I'd set aside weeks before, back when I still believed I'd be standing at the front pew with her in my arms. Instead, I sat by the kitchen window with a glass of water and watched the neighborhood shift into its Sunday rhythm. The church bells rang faintly in the distance. I imagined the parish hall already buzzing with soft murmurs and fervent whispers. Women in pastel coats adjusting corsages. Men double-checking their phone cameras. The seats being filled. The name Lucy printed in that dainty serif font on the bulletin. Everything curated. Controlled. Sanitized. Everything, without me. The night before, I'd lit a candle. I sat at the dining table with Lucy's blessing photo beside me. Just the godparents, Father Daniel, and her in that tiny embroidered gown I'd sewn myself, one thread at a time. We'd stood in my living room. No choir. No fanfare. Just warmth. The air had smelled like cinnamon and wax. Her little hand had grasped my thumb the entire time. She didn't cry when the water touched her forehead. There was no Facebook album. No Pinterest perfect floral arch. Just reverence. And peace. That was all I needed. But Megan needed something else. She needed optics. So, Sunday morning, while the service played out across town, I stayed home. Until 11:37 a.m. That's when the messages started. The first was from a mother in the local PDA group. Someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Just wanted to say I admire your grace. We missed you today. The second was a DM on Instagram from a former colleague. Didn't want to comment publicly, but wow, your daughter is really playing up this new tradition angle. Everyone knows you were excluded. I'm so sorry. I didn't reply. Then came the bombshell. Father Daniel posted a photo to the parish page. The caption read, "Today, we give thanks for the baptism of Lucy Reed." This celebration was made possible in part by a generous anonymous donor who funded the renovation of our children's library and Sunday school classroom. We believe in transparency and gratitude. All expenses will be made public on our new parish board. That post caught fire. Over 24 comments in the first hour. This is how church should work. Finally, someone funding the future of our kids. So grateful to whoever gave this. What a blessing. But the one that stood out came from a parish volunteer named Jillian. Funny that the person who wasn't invited gave more than everyone who was. It had no likes. But it had teeth. At 1:16 p.m. Megan called. Not on her cell. On the landline. That alone told me everything. I didn't answer. 2 minutes later, the phone rang again. I let it go to voicemail. Then again. And again. On the fifth ring, I picked up and placed it on speaker. I pressed record on my backup phone before I said a word. Hello. It was Megan. And she was livid. Mom, what the hell was that? I stirred my tea calmly. You'll need to be specific. That post. That's not with the church. Making it look like we excluded you. You did exclude me. Her breath caught. That's not fair. Then what would you call it? She was quiet for 1 second too long. Then, we were trying to create boundaries. No, Megan. You were trying to erase me. You're being dramatic. You reassigned my seat. You moved the date without telling me. You posted about toxic relatives and warned the priest that I might disrupt the ceremony. You told people I was unstable. I never used that word. Not directly, I said. You preferred the word confused. It plays better in group chats. She fell silent. I didn't attend your little performance, Megan. But I didn't vanish either. I made sure the people who actually care about children would benefit from that church. From Lucy's future. You're unbelievable. No, I said. I'm documented. Click. She hung up. I saved the recording. Filed it under confrontations, confirmed intent. At 3:45 p.m. an email arrived. Subject, policy approved, church financial transparency. From the parish treasurer. Dear Mrs. Parker, following today's announcement, we've formally approved a new transparency protocol inspired by your generous donation. Monthly updates will be shared with the congregation. We're grateful for your leadership. Warm regards. Lydia Combs, Parish Board Treasurer. I sat with that email in silence, then forwarded it to my lawyer. The church that tried to edge me out now operated by my rules. Not because I shouted. Not because I demanded. But because I gave without needing to be seen, and when they looked closer, they realized the only person acting like family was the one they'd cut out of the photo. At 5:07 p.m., my doorbell rang. I checked the porch camera before opening. Travis. Alone. I pressed record again and stepped outside. He stood awkwardly, holding a half-folded program from the ceremony. Megan's, cooling off. Thought maybe we could talk. Of course, I said. Smile for the camera. He blinked. Sorry? Door cam, I said. It records everything. Just like your wife's group chat. I handed him a small folder. Inside, printouts of the life insurance policy with my name and Megan as the caregiver beneficiary. Screenshot *TS from the parenting group. The email from the church. A copy of my medical evaluation. He flipped through, face paling. I don't know what to say. Try sorry. He didn't. Just rubbed the back of his neck. This has gotten out of hand. No, Travis. This is exactly what you planned. It's just the outcome you didn't expect. He took a step back. We were scared. Megan thought. She thought I'd die easier if I felt irrelevant first. His eyes started away. That's not what this is. It's exactly what this is. He looked down, defeated. I'm not going to see you, I said. Not unless you try this again. He looked up, surprised. But I've notified your insurance provider of the conflict of interest. Your church knows. My lawyer knows. And as of tomorrow, so will the local elder care fraud task force. Just in case. His lips parted. That's documentation, I said. You should be familiar with it by now. He opened his mouth. I shut the door. That night, I made a pot of soup. Sat at my kitchen table with no noise. No expectations. Just me. Outside, the snow finally began to melt at the edges of the sidewalk. I watched it soften. And realized, for the first time in months, I didn't feel erased. I felt seen. Not by Megan. Not by Travis. But by me. And sometimes, that's enough. Because when family builds a narrative without you, your only choice is to write a better one, truthfully, thoroughly, and backed with evidence. One that cannot be erased. It happened the following Tuesday. I was pruning the dead stems from my winter garden when I saw his car pull into the driveway. Travis stepped out wearing a wool coat too expensive for a man buried in debt. He stood on the porch for a full minute before ringing the bell, pacing, hands in his pockets, as if unsure whether to knock or flee. He'd come alone again. Good. I preferred it that way. I wiped my hands on a towel and opened the door. Ellen, he began, I want to talk. Just us. Man too, mother-in-law. I raised an eyebrow. You were never one for jokes. He gave a tired laugh. Look, I don't want this to escalate. You've made your point. I haven't made anything, I said. You and Megan wrote this script yourselves. I'm just reading it back to you. He sighed. I'm not proud of what we did. But I swear, the policy, Megan thought it was a safety net. I stepped aside. Come in. But keep your hands visible. My security system logs everything. He glanced toward the blinking camera in the foyer. I believe it. I led him into the living room and handed him a folder. Inside, a copy of the life insurance document with red annotations. Highlighted statements from their group chats about removing Ellen from the picture. My medical evaluation. The cease and desist letter my attorney had drafted. A summary of my irrevocable trust, showing the clause, any attempt to question mental capacity will result in immediate forfeiture. He flipped through, color draining from his face. I came to apologize, he said, eyes low. We thought if we could just manage the narrative, make you seem a little confused, it would be easier. Easier to simplify everything. I sat unmoved. Easier to steal. It wasn't theft, he muttered. Then what would you call applying for power of attorney without consent? Assigning yourselves as beneficiaries? Labeling me unstable to my church and friends? He opened his mouth. I cut him off. Your name is on every document, Travis. Megan might have signed, but you enabled it. I thought we were protecting Lucy. I laughed. By making her grandmother disappear? He said nothing. I've already reported the policy, I continued. And your attempts to influence church administration. and the suggestion that I needed medical guardianship. The Elder Abuse Task Force will be in touch soon. His head dropped into his hands. I'm not pressing criminal charges yet, but any further action on your part will be met with the full weight of legal retaliation, including exposure. His voice cracked. Exposure? I leaned forward. Every document, every message, every recorded call, sent to your workplace, Megan's employer, the church, the PTA, Lucy's school, the neighborhood association, even your mortgage lender. You wouldn't. I sat back, folding my hands. Try me. The room was silent for a beat. Then he stood. You were always sharper than you let on. I let it go for too long, I said. But not anymore. He walked to the door slowly, like a man on his way to a sentencing. Before leaving, he turned. We were scared, he whispered. The debt. The house. Megan's anxiety. I nodded. And you thought the solution was to gut the only person who's ever stood by you. The door closed behind him. I watched from the window as he sat in his car for a long time before finally driving away. The next morning, the church council convened. Father Daniel had requested it quietly. I wasn't invited, but I knew what was said. Word travels fast when truth is on your side. He stood before the board with every donation receipt, every transparency request I'd made, and a letter I'd written him the night before. It read, "If community means anything, it must be built on truth. Not performance. Not guilt. Not curated narratives of exclusion. I gave because children deserve books and shelter, not because I wanted applause. But I will not be defamed while my back is turned. If you condone exclusion in the name of comfort, then you are no church at all." That letter was read aloud. The council issued a statement. They condemned gossip, coercion, and manipulation, instituted mandatory conflict of interest disclosures for board members, and, most importantly, acknowledged my contribution by name. It was printed in the church bulletin that Sunday. We are grateful to Ellen Parker, whose vision and integrity have restored not only our roof, but our foundation. Megan didn't attend that service. But I did. I sat in the third pew. Alone. At peace. And when the organ played, I didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because I was no longer pretending it hadn't happened. The final blow came a week later. Travis's boss, an affable man named Mark who'd once called me Mom at a barbecue, reached out. He sent an email. Brief. Cold. Hi, Ellen. I've reviewed the materials you shared. As a father, I'm shocked by what I saw. Out of respect for our professional relationship, I'll be stepping back until the Reed family resolves their internal issues. Please consider this my formal disengagement from all social affiliations involving them. Best, Mark. I hadn't sent him anything, but someone had. The exposure had big asterisk N. Not out of vengeance, but consequence. That night, I made tea. Sat in the living room. No noise. No retaliation. Just my own breathing. And it occurred to me, this wasn't revenge. This was clarity. They built a stage and cast me as the unstable matriarch. But I'd rewritten the script. Page by page. With receipts. With facts. With the kind of silence that only scares people who've counted on you to stay quiet. A month passed. No birthday calls. No apology. No sudden epiphanies or grand gestures from Megan. No toddlers giggle through the phone. The house was quiet in a way I hadn't experienced since Robert died. And yet, I slept better than I had in years. The absence was clean. Surgical. It didn't ache the way people think distance should. It simply freed up space where anxiety used to live. Then, one Thursday afternoon, Megan showed up alone. No warning. No appointment. No Lucy. She stood on my porch in a thick gray coat with her arms folded tightly across her chest, like she was trying to hold herself together. Her mascara was smudged. Her hair was unbrushed. I didn't open the screen door. Just stood behind the glass, watching her. "I'm not here to fight," she said. "I just need to talk." I pressed the intercom button by the door. "Are you recording?" "No." "Are you wired?" Her lips twitched. "No." I unlocked the door and stepped aside. She entered like a stranger. Glanced at the camera over the mantel, the one she once called a little paranoid, and sat down on the edge of the couch like she wasn't sure she belonged there anymore. She didn't. But I let her speak. She didn't start with an apology. She started with shame. "I was scared," she said. "I still am. We're drowning in debt. We're 2 months behind on the mortgage. I maxed out another credit card last week." I said nothing. I thought if I could just control the narrative, if we could build a case before things got worse, maybe we'd have a chance at stabilizing. "That's what Travis said anyway." "Travis said a lot of things," I replied. She nodded. "I know." The silence between us was thick with unsaid things. But I waited. "I'm not proud of what we did," she said. "The posts. The church. The insurance." Her voice broke. "The way we talked about you." I look back and I don't even recognize myself. "I do," I said. "I recognize every version of you. That's how betrayal works." She looked up, startled. "Then why did you let me in?" "Because I wanted to see if the person I raised had survived the performance." We sat there for a long time. Then I leaned forward and slid a folder across the coffee table. She didn't open it. "It's Lucy's college trust," I said. "Still intact. Grows at 5% annually. She'll have enough for undergrad and part of grad school by the time she's 18. Megan blinked. "You're still keeping it?" "For her," I said. "Not for you. It's under the church's independent education fund now. You have no access. No authority. If you so much as question my mental capacity again, it triggers a clause. The entire fund diverts to underserved students through the diocesan board." Her face twisted. "You don't trust me." "No," I said. "But I still love Lucy." She opened the folder slowly. Her hands trembled. Then she began to cry, not dramatic sobs, but quiet, gasping sounds like someone mourning something already gone. I let her. When she looked up, her mascara streaked her cheeks. "Can we fix this?" "No," I said plainly. "We can manage it." "Manage?" I nodded. "With rules." She frowned. "I've drafted a family boundary agreement," I continued. "Calls only for emergencies. Visits must be requested and confirmed. No financial inquiries. No emotional manipulation. No public references to me that insinuate instability. Break any part of it, and I go no contact." Her mouth opened, but no words came. I passed her a pen. She hesitated, then signed. That was the moment I knew we weren't rebuilding anything. We were closing the remains of something too fractured to repair. But the document made it clean. Boundaried. Safe. Like a fence around a scarred garden. The next week, the parish formally unveiled the St. Lucy Children's Library. Father Daniel asked if I wanted to say a few words. I declined. Instead, I stood in the back and watched as the children poured in. Their coats hung on tiny hooks. Their fingers traced the spines of books I'd helped purchase. Their laughter echoed in the space my name had helped create, even if no plaque said so. I didn't need credit. I just needed proof that something I built couldn't be stolen or rewritten. A young girl handed me a crayon drawing. It was of a house, a rainbow, and a crooked smile on a round face. "That's you," she said shyly. "You're the book lady." I smiled. Later that evening, I added her drawing to my ledger. Tucked it between legal transcripts and notarized evaluations. A single beam of light between pages of shadow. Because this was the cost of clarity. You lose illusions. You lose comfort. You lose people. But what you gain, if you're disciplined enough, is sovereignty. Megan called once the following month. She didn't ask for money. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She just said, "Lucy misses you." I replied, "I miss her too." And that was enough. For now. Freedom doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it arrives quietly, dressed in cold mornings and long silences, and a single chair across a room no longer filled with manipulation. I sit in that chair every morning now. I read. I breathe. I age. On my own terms. Because I've learned that clarity isn't cruel. It's necessary. And love, when it turns feral, must be caged with iron, not hope.